get a gecko to interrupt me. Hey, what's happening everybody? Megasnap57 here and welcome back to my first day of con stories to go ahead and celebrate Kawaii Con being open. Yes! So, let's go ahead and talk about my first ever con that I went to. Long story short, I pulled up to the convention in a school bus. So this is my first day, my first time ever going to a convention. I was in high school at the time, and one of my friends had actually invited me to come and hang out with them when they checked out from the dormitories to go ahead and, well, enjoy Kawaii Con. I had never heard of this before. So I actually looked up what Kawaii Con was, found out it was an anime convention, and so I decided to go ahead and prepare by making a costume. And so I pieced together what I could from my very bad memory of sewing lessons that I took in middle school back when I was 12. And I pieced together my very first costume and made the costume of Ichigo from Bleach when he first achieved his Bankai. And it was really bad. It was flimsy at best, and there was so much wrong with that costume. I ran out of one material, so I ended up buying another of a similar material, but found out it was the wrong one. And I pieced it all together, and it was basically a mess. I had no proper stitching to finish the seams or anything. And my sword that I had originally made from a broken down tent that we were about to throw away back home, I forgot I couldn't take it back with me to the school because one, it was a weapon, and two, well, I went to school off island, so I had to figure out what to do for the sword. What I ended up doing actually was getting a yardstick, and I got electric tape and wrapped that stick up and somehow made it into a makeshift sword. It was the weirdest looking thing. It still looked like a yardstick, but it was the best I could do. And so when that day finally came, I didn't know that there was places for me to change. So I ended up wearing my costume on the bus. So here I am, this high schooler, wearing an Ichigo cosplay with a very bad Ichigo wig, which I learned now that you actually have to style it. And I had a lot of looks on that day. Even from friends that hung out with me and knew that I was going to the convention. I think just the idea that I was there, especially since I was among the older half of the group, I was just there in a costume among the rest of these high schoolers. I was getting a lot of looks and a lot of whispers. I could not hear the whispers specifically what they were saying, but I definitely knew that they were about me because I kept on getting pointed at. But regardless, we ended up going to the mall, and I realized a very big problem when I got to that stop, because that's where they dropped off all the students, was at the mall. I forgot to ask my friend where the convention was, because if so, I would end up wandering the entire city from the mall, not knowing where I was going.
Where the f*** am I?
Luckily for me, actually, though, the bus driver was aware of the convention, and so he asked me before I got off the bus if I was going to the convention, and I said yeah. I knew it was around here, I just didn't know where specifically in the city it was. Luckily, the bus driver said he knew where it was, so he told me to stay on the bus I was actually getting a personal ride to the convention. And so I ended up rolling up to the convention in a school bus. And so here we go, and we end up going from the mall to the Honolulu Convention Center. And there I am, this one student dressed up in a really bad Ichigo cosplay, rolling up in a school bus, and I am the only passenger on board. And so I get dropped off in the middle of the parking lot in front of the entrance, where everybody looks and thinks, huh, is there a bunch of students that are coming out here for an outing? No, it's just me. And so when I did that, I definitely felt like I was getting more eyes than usual pointed in my direction, and I was already uncomfortable enough as it was at the bus stop from the dorms all the way to the mall. Well, I was pretty much at my limit until I walked through the door and I started seeing more and more cosplayers. When I walked through those doors, it was just like a shift. It was a huge shift where I no longer was an outsider, but among my own people. And it was great. A few people asked how I made my costume. It was really nice. And of course, you know, I went around asking people for pictures. And of course to ask how they made their costumes. So one of the wonderful things though, going to that KawaiiCon, was that this was when Bleach was really popular. And so it was great because there were so many Bleach cosplayers. And I was absolutely through the roof because there were so many cosplayers of Bleach characters that wanted to take a picture with me because, you know, again, among your own people. So the minute you find out when you are one of many characters from the same show, obviously there's going to be some camaraderie. And of course, you know, there weren't a lot of people who knew me, especially since, you know, this was among strangers. This was my first convention ever. I had nobody that actually knew who I was in person. So another thing that you're going to have to get used to at a convention, especially if you're cosplaying, is you're not going to be recognized for who you are. You're most likely going to be recognized for your character. So I spent most of that day getting called Ichigo, and it was really awesome. And so I was super happy. Got to go and hang out with a bunch of people. We took quite a few pictures, and I had a lot of fun. And I got to explore all of this because, well, this was another mistake on my part. I actually forgot to ask for my friend's number so that way I could see where we were supposed to meet up. So I ended up wandering through the entire convention for about half the day before I finally got to meet up with him and the others we were supposed to hang out with. But regardless, it was still amazing and super fun, and I had a blast. Later on, because of how I usually spend about half the day by myself, just wandering and exploring the convention, that kind of stuck with me, because even now, throughout most of the conventions I go to, if I am traveling with people to go to a convention, I will most likely ditch them for about half or the entire day if they do not keep me on a short leash, because I tend to just wander off and look and enjoy everything, talk with a bunch of people, ask for photos, ask how they built costumes, all this kind of stuff, and I can't help it. It's a habit. And, you know, I feel really bad because one time I brought my sister with me and she had to keep me on a really short leash because if she turned around for even a second and I was not paying attention, she lost me. But that is for another story, and I hope to see you guys all again when I go ahead and share another story about KawaiiCon in the next video. Okay, see you guys next time.